Well, greetings, everybody. Keith here. Hoping everybody's enjoying life, living life, loving life. Okay. We continue on. We continue on. Greetings, Nubs. We are
What's up,
back for
brother?
another little portion of They Fell into Dishonor. We're going to continue on tonight with some more etymology. And before I get started with the etymology, we're going to start with some codes. You got anything on your mind first there, though, Nubs? All right. We'll go ahead and get
Not too
started.
much. Just enjoy your words, man. I appreciate
Awesome.
you. Fill in
Awesome.
space.
There you go. So, first of all, I want to remind everybody, hit the like, share, and subscribe button. If you're on Hecklebus, get over to El Perro. If you're on El Perro, get over to Hecklebus and do the same. Of course, there's always the PayPal links down in the lower details of the videos. If you're on Facebook and you want to be involved, you got to come over to one of the YouTube channels and get involved in the chat there. The StreamYard link is pinned, so anybody's welcome to come up over here. In the meantime, we're going to get started tonight with the definition of state. And this is as it relates to something I've discussed before in relation to the sovereignty, because that's what we're truly talking about here with the Postal Service and the sovereignty issue. It's not that I'm a sovereign, but there's a sovereignty issue about the availability of each man to be able to govern himself, despite the fact that he is in fact a country or not, a nation or not, a state or not. Because that term state, as it's defined in their code, is going to tell you various different things, but it's never going to relate to the state of your being, which is a living soul, called in noun form a man. And then again, in their definitions and scientific definitions and regular dictionaries, it defines man as an animal. It's a classification, period. That's the noun. God is a respecter of no persons, because even a deer is a noun, and that is a person, place, or a thing. Now, as we think of it, it's a thing. But either way you look at it, it's still describing similar things, such as a place, which is a natural place, a thing, which is a natural thing, and a person, which is a natural being. But they're only described by nouns. The verb part is destroyed in the descriptor. So as we see it, state under 26 USC 7701, one of my favorite codes. It says 10. This is A10, lowercase a in parentheses, and then 10. 26 USC 7701, parenthesis A, unparenthesis, parenthesis 10, unparenthesis state. The term state shall be construed to include, and therefore it's inclusive, the District of Columbia, where such construction is necessary to carry out provisions of this title. So when we talk about that sovereignty and how the states ceded their jurisdiction to the United States, maybe we might want to look at that term again as united, because each state is a unit of a record that is kept in Washington, D.C. Okay. The next one is UCC 9-307, location of debtor, would be a place of business. That address is a venue, and it's established as a place of business through the title. And because it's in the public administrative docket, it's considered a public title. Okay? Debtor's location, general rules, except as otherwise provided in this section. The following rules determine a debtor's location.
I don't mean to be rude, but I'm curious, is that the same as, how do I say this? Is that title, like my business has a title, but then we also have like car titles and stuff like that. Is that the same root or same thing?
Same thing. Anything that's a title is a title. So when you get your birth registration, you see at the very top of it, and it says state of Iowa, and it's all uppercase. That's the title. And then in the code, it's going to tell you under 20 CFR, employee benefits or employees or whatever. It's going to tell you that the second name on the document is the beneficiary. So you've got a title, and then you've got a beneficiary of that title. Okay, that's your birth certificate.
So it's not excuse me. It's not first in line, first in time. I guess if
first in line, first in time is outside of the title. That's the equity. That's why when you take hold of that legal title and you collapse that public trust, now you deposit that legal title in your trust account, which should be established with the Enterprise Payment Systems Online Postal Service as a trust. That way it's recognized as a private trust, and it's tied directly to the general ledger. And of course, the Judicial Office Department is a neutral and independent forum within the United States Postal Service, comprising of the judicial officer, the administrative law judge, and the contract board or the Board of Contract Appeals. So if that's not a valid contract, then it doesn't get to go through. And that title is held as the substance backing your word. You're going to execute your word, and that title is going to give you credit.
Right.
That's where your credit comes from.
Right. Because the credit is not necessarily always financial. It has more to do with my ability to create equity. Am I on the right?
Right.
Okay.
And by placing the title in the right place, it creates the equity holding that you don't have to hold the title. It's in the possession of the Postal Service. They're the ones holding the title. And for entry and control, it has to be executed appropriately through the trust and not by contract. Contracts are securitized. Trusts are customized per association, private.
Okay. And they can also give out dividends and stuff like that instead of payment.
If they're structured as so, yep.
Gotcha. And that way you can avoid certain things that are not just.
Yep. And this first one is the one that's not just. One, a debtor who is an individual. Remember 5 USC 552A, individual records, and that's 5 USC, and that's employees. So an individual as an employee is located at the individual's principal residence. So as the employee, that's a obligor situation as a debtor. But as the man in equity, you are the principal. And as a principal, you are saying you are residing in that house. And that's the presumption that you're running a business on those premises that are owned by the bank, because the title's sitting in the administrative office.
So I have a question. With that being said, my little local, and I say my as in the region where I'm at, they like to say that I'm not able to run a business out of my home. How does that
Right.
work with
In their okay, first of all, this is their catch-22. Well, if I'm not allowed to run a business out of my home, then how come I'm paying taxes for that home?
that?
So if there's no business coming from that home, how do you assess the tax? By the land.
Right.
Oh goodness, Leviticus 25 says that you can't purchase that land. Did you purchase? Are you buying and selling land, or are you buying and selling the premises? Premises, premise. Did you make a prior bet that I was too stupid to figure this out?
Misers.
Exactly. Oopsie, we lost him. We lost him. So I imagine he'll be coming back. So let's get back to it, because that's key, as I've said long ago. Residents, remember 19 USC 810. We went over that here a few videos ago. No person shall reside within the zone except federal, state, or municipal officers or agents whose resident presence is deemed necessary by the board. And of course, I didn't show you in that video, but the board it consists of, when you click on that blue highlighted link, it consists of the Secretary of Commerce as the executive chair and the Secretary of State. Now, I'd like to remind you that Bureau of Vital Statistics record that is established at birth. The Bureau of Vital Statistics itself is regulated by the Department of Commerce. And then, of course, the Secretary of State is the one that hands out the birth certificate, which is a bond, which is an obligation or other security of the United States. Now, it's the bonds that are securitized. And under those, it's the bonds that are securitized, and it's under those that all those signatures are saying that the contract has been securitized. And that's false. That birth certificate, it's not valid. That birth certificate has no nationality. That birth certificate starts out professing a resident in error, an entry in error of a resident on a file date, when in fact that file date will prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that it is impossible to have been deemed necessary by the board as a resident, when you can't run a business and become a debtor through that business until you're of an age of majority, and therefore you couldn't be a debtor. A person having an interest other than a security interest or other lien. So these are liens. You didn't have the capability to put a lien in the collateral. Why? Because they didn't either. That collateral should never have been assessed. There was no asset presented, whether or not the person is an obligor. Obligor. Original debtor. Huh. Obligor means a person that, with respect to an obligation secured by a security interest in or an agricultural lien on the collateral. Shadow paper. The birth certificate itself is a certificate of a birth registration of an animal known as a man. A debtor that is an organization. You've never been organized through the Federal Reserve. You've never given them notice, which is one of the first steps. And then, of course, obviously, you didn't start to be organized. You might think you're organized, but you're not. And has only one place of business. So it's two. You have to be organized and have only one place of business. So you have to be a business and organized as such a business. Again, through the Board of Governors of the Federal Reserve, 12 USC 614. and is located at its place of business. A debtor, that's an organization that has more than one place of business, is located at its chief executive office. Okay, let's go down to H. Location of United States. United States. The United States is located in the District of Columbia. So the record is located in the District of Columbia. Because that's all it is. The United States is nothing but a record, and it has no birth registry itself, and therefore does not have nationality in paper or on paper, again, because there's no sovereignty. If the state ceded their jurisdiction to the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., and Washington, D.C. has zero sovereignty, and they are doing nothing but holding a record, where do they get any sense of any sovereignty? None. No nation that does this can pose any sovereignty. And that's why I say I have more sovereignty in my little pinky than all of the nations of this world put together under that UN. Period. They've given up their sovereignty for paperwork, for a record keeping. Nothing more. So let's look at the next one, and I'm going to check the page here and see if we got Nubs back yet. We haven't seen him yet. I want to welcome Gen V, Freedom Fighter, the producer Moose in the house, Bo Hydrus in the house. Y'all need to get over and check out Bo Hydrus. He puts out some good videos and stuff. So looks like he knows what he's working up against and is willing to put his foot forward. So each one teach one, guys. So let's get back to it then. And while I'm at it, hit that like, share, and subscribe, please. So we're looking at transit. Now, why are we looking at transit? Because everything we do has a route. In order to get something somewhere, we have to have a route. In order to take something from one place and put it in another place. Pay attention to the words I'm using, folks, and review these videos and the etymology of the words and terms and conditions that I've been telling you. Transit. Act or fact of passing across or through. Now remember, I've also talked about the dispatch manifold dispatch, and that's something where you can send your own private articles through the mail rather than entering them into the mails. This is again the error in entry. It was put into a record keeping system known as the International Bureau, all the way from that very first bureau, the Bureau of Vital Statistics. From Latin transitus, a going over, passing over, passage, as in your right of passage, your right of portage, and your right of passage. Remember, it's pass, age, port, age. Verbal noun from past. Participle of transire. Cross over, go over, pass over, hasten over, pass away. From trans, across or beyond. Somewhere beyond the rainbow, beyond the horizon, beyond the earth, beyond the heavens. See trans plus ire, to go. From pi root, Proto-Indo-European root, i.e. to go, meaning a transit of a planet across the sun. is from 1660s, meaning public transportation is attested from 1873. When did all these constitutions arise, folks? When did all these constitutions arise, folks? Was it shortly after the Civil War and the new maritime martial laws, where in every post office being established was an inland marine installation, the first one located in a friggin' cavern by Benjamin Franklin, to support public transportation? Interesting, huh? Interesting. So let's take a look here. When we take apart the term travel, we're going to look up the etymology of travel too, but we're going to take it apart first. So TRA, derived from Latin, trans, across, beyond, through, throughout, over. Does it sound familiar? Beach, strand, sandy seashore is from Gaelic. What does tra mean in Sanskrit? To liberate. To liberate. Catching on? So let's go back to transit real quick. Because before I want to get too far, I want to talk about this passage, because I made a note about it and I almost forgot. Pass age. The rite of passage is the ability to go across a body of water. Your rite of portage is your right of being upon water and being able to use land to go to another body of water. Okay? Boats, ships pull up into ports. People on land go to ports so they can pass over the water. Okay? Water, a very important element, folks. Across, beyond, throughout, throughout, over the rainbow, beyond the horizon. Yeah. Beach as a horizon. Yeah. Let's get to it, to liberate the mind. As we go on to VII, the other part of travel, abbreviation of Latin, vel simila, or the like, or similar ones. Simila is like and similar. So vel is or. Right? Did you know that vel in German is water, meaning or well? Vel, V-E-L, in German is water. Vel from Old Norse is craft, as in maybe a watercraft, but also deceit. To turn, bend. Vela, vel, veil in Latin, to reveal. Vel is a divine spirit associated with Murugan, the Hindu god of war. Vel, spear. Vel, parchment made from calf skin. Veal. Well, etymology and origin, meaning of well by to wish. to wish. TRA, also a derivative form of TRI. Try, as in three, as in TRU, as in trust. So do you trust the water? Can you walk on water? Can you walk on the deceit? Can you defeat the test? Do you know how to walk? Do you know how to travel? Do you know how to transit? Footprints in the sand. What about that? Psalms 121, verse 8. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. Why does he do that? Because Jeremiah 1:5 says, before I formed thee in belly, I knew thee. This is when he wrote his word on your heart with his index finger. Supposedly. That's the way it's portrayed. Port aid. Before thou was cast from the womb, I sanctified thee. I ordained thee. That would be the words that he supposedly wrote on your heart. That should already be there. A prophet unto the nation. Telling us that we're supposed to speak the word of God. Speak for God. That's what prophet means. That's why you're preserved, the going out and the coming in from this time forth and even forevermore. And no one's supposed to subvert that. None. So let's take a look at this Constitution. Because I asked before, what constitutes you? Is it their writing or is it the writing of the scriptures? See, it's the scriptures I use as my holy writs. One of 13 pages. It's only 13 pages long. It's a real easy document to get to know. Constitution of the Universal Postal Union. Let me blow this up. Make it easy to read for everybody. We don't want anybody to be disillusioned or become totally illiterate. Amended by the 1969 Tokyo, 1974 Lausanne, 1984 Hamburg, 1989 Washington. These are conventions, Geneva Conventions. 1994 Seoul, 1999 Beijing, 2004 Bucharest, 24th Congress, 2008, 2016 Istanbul, 2018 Addis Ababa, 2021 Abidjan, and additional protocols. Table of Contents Preamble, Section 1, Organic provisions. Organic being determined as having hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. 1, 2, 3, 3, try, tra, true, organic. Provisions. Somebody provided them, like the providence of grace. That's a grant. Chapter 1, General. Scope and objectives of the Union, definition, member, jurisdiction, all that. It's going to tell you all of this stuff, okay? Bodies of the Union. Congress, Extraordinary Congress, Council, Administration, Postal Operations Council, and the International Bureau. This is where they keep all of their records on the international venue. And each nation, as they pose, has their own bureau. However, we find out it's kept in the states. So where is the National Bureau? Even in the United States, they tell you no. The Bureau of Vital Statistics of the United States does not keep those records. They're kept in the state. So we find out that this supposed centralized government is not, in fact, centralized. So Preamble. With a view to developing communications between peoples by efficient operations of the postal services and to contributing to the attainment of the noble aims of international collaboration in the cultural, social, and economic fields. It's a lab, and it's the oration of the results of that lab with agreements. It's a big experiment. If you want to partake in the paperwork, then keep partaking in that paperwork. If not, express your trust. That's all it is. Let's get down here to Section 1, Organic Provisions, Scope and Objective of the Union. The scope or the view and the objectives, which are the outer perspectives and not the internal perspectives, which are known as subjective. The countries adopting this Constitution shall form, under the intergovernmental organization entitled the Universal Postal Union, a single postal territory. A single postal territory for the reciprocal exchange of postal items. There is already a one world government, dummies. Freedom of transit. Freedom of transit. So all 194 countries that adopted this and became part of this intergovernment organization are guaranteeing freedom of transit throughout the entire territory of the Union, subject to the conditions specified. I am not subject to the conditions specified. I am not subjecting myself to them. Therefore, I'm not subject to them. However, I can adopt them and be a party to them collaterally. Collateral, not collaboration. The aim of the union shall be to secure the organization. That sounds like a securitization that is trying to help you as a custom, objectively outside people, that they're trying to subject you to them. And notice, acceptance or approval adopted this Constitution. I may not approve it, but I accept how they are using it, and I adopted it. It's on my site. I've already adopted it, but I have not subjected anything to ratification. I do, however, have a business account under the title of a trust that is not public. My apologies. I've been rambling on and didn't even show you all this stuff. This is what I first read off. Scope and objectives, jurisdiction. We went down here and read the preamble. View to developing communications, efficient operation of postal services. And remember, we reviewed the 32 CFR, 1602.4 area office. And it tells us the selected service is responsible for the administration and operation within the jurisdiction of its boards, or boards within its jurisdiction. So again, when you customize things, don't allow them to securitize them. That's the purpose of customization. It's not the same as securitization. That's an investment. Customization is saying, leave your hands off. It's mine. Pure and simple, folks. Red Pill Slave says, I am currently reading through Un Central UN memo, and it refers to the ICC, but the U.S. is not a member of the ICC. But it does explain that, again, like I've said before, when you're buying things, you're buying an insurance. When you go to the bank and you get that home loan, and instead of processing it as a loan, what they do is they take the option to sell an installment plan, and that installment plan is the insurance payments that you agree to pay. You made a secondary signature to pay the insurance as a secondary obligor. That part was already taken care of. That's mortgage insurance. If there's already mortgage insurance, then why are you signing another insurance contract?
I always wondered that when I was
me.
selling it.
Yeah, we read earlier, if there's already a primary liability, why am I taking on a secondary liability? Let the primary liability work in its indemnity. It's all a full system. They're getting some value, and you're not.
Do you know what I was told? My apologies.
No, go ahead.
Do you know what I was told mortgage insurance is? It covers the debt on, and I would start asking questions. I didn't last very long in the mortgage industry. I mean, I did some decent mortgages, but my conscience, once I started reading these things and like learning what I was actually doing, and once I read Truth in Lending, oh fuck, there's no truth in lending.
It's a release, because the services to pay the debt has already been leased out from the post office through the Postal Service and its agreement with the Treasury of the United States. That's already been had. They're the primary party, that primary liable party. That's why there's 18 U.S.C. 8, obligations and other securities of the United States. In order for them to show the debt, they have to securitize the instrument. And if you're operating into one securitizing it, you're releasing your personal services to securitize it. Therefore, you're the obligor on a secondary liability.
Right. And that's exactly what it does. And they don't go after the first position. They go after the second position.
Correct. And you're not supposed to be in that position. You are a third party to it. It's already done, folks.
Read your Truth in Lending, and you'll definitely understand that if you understand it.
Right.
Because there's no money that's actually lent. You didn't get a check.
Right. See, what they're doing is they're extending credit. And this is what they don't understand with this Postal Service thing. You've got to set up in a monopoly situation saying that I can't extend credit. Excuse me. Let me read King James Version. Deuteronomy, the second law. The first law is Leviticus, and that states that we're the redeemers and the land can't be sold. And the second law tells us that we are the lenders under the nations. And if that's so, then how come nobody's willing to accept my credit? I'll be damned if you're going to sit there and say, I can't coin my words. Fuck you and your purse. I hope it's got a big fucking hole in it.
That definitely makes a lot of sense when explained that way. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I understood it while I was doing it enough that I realized that I didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah. If you're already blessed and your cup is overfilling, what is there you want? Ask me, and I'll try to find a way to get it to you. But for now, and here it says, and again, this is where they get their laws. For the Lord thy God blesseth thee, as he promised thee, and thou shalt lend unto many nations. This is where they get their profit. Not profit, but prof or prophet. But thou shalt not borrow, and thou shalt reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over thee. They have no sovereignty. Okay. Now I want to let everybody know I've been doing this 7 years straight now. My birthday's coming up in 10 days on August 20th. I was pulled over 4 days after my 50th birthday. August 24th. August 24th will be 7 years to the day. And Deuteronomy 15 starts out with verse 1. It says, at the end of every 7 years, thou shalt make a release.
That's the year of Jubilee, right?
My year of Jubilee is the 50th year. The 50th year is the year of Jubilee. And upon my 50th year, that's when I come out and started speaking to the world. Consequently, oh, wait a minute. Let's mention another fact. You want to talk about these numbers and everything. Mr. Smith, 33 years of a record, and then it stopped. 33 years, then it stopped. On my 18th birthday, well, actually, it's just very shortly after my 18th birthday, that criminal record started. There was a legal record long before that. There was a legal record established before I was even fucking born. So then we go 33 years turns to be 51. So that time I got pulled over, and by the time it finished up, I turned 51. 33 years I was involved in that stuff. Ain't looked back. Ain't going to happen again. I learned how to do, Matthew 18, verse 15 through 20. Can I get a motherfucking witness?
How much time do you spend?
I'm counting the years of the record that establish the events. I know the events, and I don't need to time them. I can tell you them in order. It's only the record that needs to pose it to somebody else so they can profess that they're putting it in order when it's not in order. It was entered in error. It don't belong there to begin with. Go ahead, brother.
How long do you spend reading the Bible?
Greetings, brother. How are you?
Good, good.
Hope all's
How
well.
long do you spend reading the Bible on a daily basis, Wizard?
I've been reading the scriptures since I was a kid.
I understand that. I'm asking, like, because I kind of get how you read it. It's not the way that everybody else reads it.
No, they don't.
So, because you read it, to my understanding, you read it both in a literal term.
It's a banking book telling you how to deal with your financial principles, which is the person. And if you can't keep that person under wraps, and it comes out and starts babbling, it's going to cause all kinds of problems. And that's the issue. He's a respecter of no persons. And if you're a prophet, meaning you speak for God, then you don't speak for the person. You can speak of the person, but you don't speak for that person.
Right. Otherwise, you have to redeem that person. I've learned that lesson recently because I spoke for a person and then that person was not accountable. So therefore, I became the primary holder.
Yep.
I understand. Like that was a valuable lesson. Very. I got it on sale. I'll put it that way. And I sailed away.
And like I said, when you live in truth, this is Isaiah 22:22. Again, here we go with the numbers. I'm going to show you another one. And the key of house of David will I lay upon his shoulder, so he shall open, and none shall shut. and he shall shut, and none shall open. Case closed.
Hey, Wizard,
Play
what are your
games with
thoughts
me.
on Psalm 89? About 3/4 of the way through, where it talks about the covenant that the Most High has with the house of David.
I think it's more the covenant that David has with the house of Most High.
But,
Okay,
well, yeah, that's what I meant.
and I'll explain it this way, because David went out before the Goliath, and the nation tried to help him put on armor. They tried to securitize him, and he accepted his custom gear. It's that simple. He had
I've
faith in his
never even thought about that. Holy shit.
he had faith in his custom gear, the shield of the full armor of God, and that is Titus 3:8.
I never even put that together ever in my life until just now, and that's exactly what they did. Because they all got together, and out of all the tribes, they came together with the king's armor. And it was not suited for David because he flowed with the sword, he flowed with the sling. Effectively, he was an old-timey gunfighter because that was the gun of the day.
Today's gun is your word. My yea is my yea, my nay is my nay. And if you don't understand how the word is coined, pay attention to Titus 3:8. John 1:1. And John 3:33. You want to play numbers game, Mr. Smith? Let's play. Let's play his numbers and profess they have some kind of meaning. John 3:33. He that hath received his testimony hath set to his seal that God is true. So if in beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was God, and God is true, then God is truth. And if God is love and God is pure, so every word of God is pure, and it is a shield unto he that put their trust in God. Right back around to the full armor of God. I really need to get a new computer. Jesus. Got to copy paste the W all the time, and the Q, and a couple others. Getting sickening. But we'll deal with it. There we go. My apologies, folks. Proverbs 30, verse 5. Every word of God is pure. He is a shield unto them that put their trust in him. And this is the faith and the testimony that David professed and expressed in his actions, not his words. He rebuked their words and expressed it in his actions, his faith in God, knowing that in beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and this is a faithful saying, and these things I will, which is God's will, that thou, directing it to you, affirm constantly. We don't always speak, but we're always in ever motion, that they which have believed in God might be careful to maintain good works. These things are good and profitable unto men. I think that's about as simple as I can put this scripture to get it through your minds. You're not supposed to be dealing with that paperwork. You're supposed to be drawing up your own instruments and putting his words on there and pointing out to them their idiocy, their babble. Brother Russ Combs put an excellent, had a nice TikTok out where he was talking to one of the judges, and he asked, can you tax a deer? Can you tax a bear? Can you tax a fox? Can you license them? Can you license them to drive or anything? No. 7 USC 136, animal is defined as a man. Science defines man as an animal. It's taught in schools. The fuck are you think you're trying to pose in your silly fucking laws? It's that simple. Nobody wants to stand up and face that truth. Go ahead, brother.
They shadow banned that video. 2 people saw it.
Yeah, fuck them.
Right.
Put it out in more venues, brother. Just keep posting it. Just keep posting it. I'll put it on my site. I dare them to fucking take it.
They said I was bullying. It was bullying and harassing.
Bullying and harassing by asking questions. What?
Yeah.
Asking questions that are very poignant and point out the very idiocy of the older man that you projected that you respect because of his age, but pointed out that because of his age is still no fucking excuse to be a fucking blatant idiot. Or right. Unless you're doing it and you know it.
They know what they're doing. I think they know what they're doing, Keith.
Exactly. That's why you pose the lesser. That's why you pose the lesser and give them an out. Yeah. You want to step up like you're a big dog? Step up in that pile of shit.
I've been trying to get a hold of that postmaster. I've given them the respect to, leave a few messages, like over 4 months of messages, right?
Contact the office of the Board of Governors and the Office of Inspector General.
Yep.
I'll give you all the information you need.
All right, cool.
And they're quick on it.
I've been paying attention to you, brother. I've been paying very close attention to you. I snapshotted it.
And
if you get a hold of the right people.
And internally,
hell yeah.
That way you got the Board of Governors in there at the 004 or 0004 zip extension at the same address, and you got Louis DeJoy at 0010 zip extension. They are separate trade zones. Yep. Understand that, folks?
Yes, they are. That zip code creates a lot of confusion for people if you don't know how to use it properly.
My cameraman sucked today, Keith, but
I saw that.
I was down at the
he wasn't on it. You're outside having a conversation. He's inside looking at the fucking floor. Like what?
Well, hey, But anyway, did you see that old boy Matt? He just
well, yeah, he disappeared. He wanted out of there, didn't he?
Yeah, he said it wasn't nothing he can do for me because I said, hey, Matt, I've been trying to get a hold of you. And he said, yeah, there ain't nothing I can do for you. Well, how the fuck about give a guy a courtesy call back at least? I mean, what about that's just a lack of.
That's in their manual that they are supposed to.
Yeah, it's a total violation.
Yeah. Yes. Well, and get this. In my situation, I had a gal down here at the local post office that didn't want to accept the instrument. I asked her if she'd mind doing some research so she could, educate herself because what she's doing is violating international law. She says, "Oh no, that's not going to happen." So then I did my service calls and everything, found out I'm supposed to contact the Office of Inspector Generals and stuff. So through that last service call, she was given a notice that this case was being investigated. So she says that she contacted the law office as if though she was going to do the investigation and have them get back to her. And then she conveniently, because she communicated with the law department, and they said, well, according to this, it says this, this, and this. And so then she turned around and closed the account. Now remember Isaiah 22:22. Yeah. He shall open and no one shall shut. Yeah. So I wrote her a nice little response. Greetings, Kimberly Hall. First, we opened the accounting and never gave you permission to close the accounting. You have no authority to do so and have altered a record for no cause, effectively trying to intercept negotiations that are no longer in your hands. As the customer service note should indicate, we are now communicating with your senior authorities in writing. This is a private trust account, and you have zero authority. We have researched the matter in depth. As stated on the form, there is a clear conversion from foreign to domestic and allows for the placing of the term in credit, an equivalent of money. This conversion in language indicates a conversion in money or its equivalent. It would seem the law department could use some education. See UCC 1-303, course of performance as it applies to routing, course of dealing, and usage of trade. General definitions at UCC 1-201, UCC 3-104, negotiable instrument, UCC 3-311, accord and satisfaction by use of instrument, 3-419, instruments signed for accommodation, UCC 3-605, discharge of secondary obligors, UCC 3-603, tender of payment. If an offer is made and accepted and returned conditionally acceptable by law and is refused, it's automatically discharged. The issue at hand is in the language as plainly written. If one cannot take the completed form in respect as conditions placed on it may vary the terms of the very term, money or its equivalent, then they're not committed to a full investigation and thus prove their incompetence in haste. Because, see, folks, you can't take an offer with no added information, look at it, say, well, it says here, da-da-da-da-da. If somebody else is able to put conditional acceptance on it, negating that or correcting it in its use. So, it goes on to say, we urge you to take the time and sit back while we resolve these matters with your senior authorities in the Judicial Office Department and the Office of Inspector General and the Board of Governors of the Postal Service. We tendered payment of a United States Postal Service registered instrument in good faith and in kind, signed for accommodation with accord and satisfaction by use of instrument offered in formation of contract with the directive for full acquittance and discharge that was refused and thus results in discharge by dishonor. End of story. Competencies are important. Reverently, Chaplain Keith. And this is going to be handed to her at arm's length through the acting postmaster. They're going to both get a copy tomorrow, delivered by a friend standing by me. Tell me I don't know how to use this language to color my life.
And it's going to be horrible for her, just knowing the internals, having worked in the post office. Not even her union rep is going to be able to touch this one.
Nope. She's already outside of the labor laws. So the labor union
Right.
can't protect her.
Right.
You understand that, folks? She's already violated international labor law or international law, which the international union itself projects as objective for everybody else. So they are the true obligor. Period. So anyway, anybody got anything else to say? If not, we're out of here. It's been that hour, and I like to limit these to so people can go one at a time. And like I said,
had
we
a
got a lot of
similar-
information to go over.
I had a similar situation, only they were refusing to do their job when it came to the general delivery. You know, I've talked a little bit about that. But basically, I refused the letter and they wouldn't accept it. Like, I looked at it, they didn't even
Yeah,
give
they
it
sent
to
it back?
me. And I said, no, this is mail fraud. This is not for me. This is not for me. And they sat there and argued with me. I said, excuse me, I'm not even a customer. I'm a patron and I have different rules and different obligations, as do you. And they looked and they gave me hassle. I made a couple of phone calls to the right people, and that postmaster is no longer in that position. Now, they're still a postmaster, but every time they drive an extra 15 minutes there and back to work every fucking day for the rest of their bid, that's me.
Yep. So remember, folks, if that name and everything is being run by an administration, that record is for securitization. And you're the one securitizing it. You're the securitor instead of the customer. You're supposed to be customizing these, not securitizing them. Pure and simple. Make that switch. Make that switch. That's why I said my site, it says not secure. Good. Because the only thing left is to be custom, right? Which has a higher protective element. The customization. So think about it. And remember, folks, that's the end of what we got tonight. God bless you. I love you. But you know, I don't give a fuck whether you love me back or not. So have a blessed evening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Peace out.
Have a good night, guys. Thanks again, Russ. Keep doing a great job, brother.